Welcome. There. My mic is off. Should we redo the show?
Well, you just, no, you're live.
My mic is on.
You're
Okay.
live. Okay.
Okay, well, welcome to JW Night Talk. Sorry about that. My mic is right here. See? And this little plug got unplugged. I had it plugged into the computer, and we do change our whole setup around here. I'm going to turn all this other stuff off, so I'm still set up for later. So my mic is on. Hello, K Fred. So here you guys can hear me. Hello, K Fred. And SDR, hello. Blue Rose, hello. And just so you know, my good wife is on the other end, making sure I do this program right. So she, I'm just going to open the door here. We're running in a remote studio for now. We're trying to sell our house, and so that's moved. I moved my studio out to it was my old solar shack. It's insulated and everything. You know, it's good all winter. But we painted it green and built a green room, and now we're waiting on some lights. It's actually quite a nice studio, but the problem is we're going back to the house. Probably I only have about 2 bars of Wi-Fi here, and we're right at the edge of our Wi-Fi. And I have a steel door here, so I just should open the door. But this is temporary. We are in the process of hopefully selling the house, the farm. And we've been working on this now for about a year. In fact, we even started an off-grid channel, and because we're going to go off-grid, that's what we're going to do. We're going to retire off-grid. So it's just something that we've been talking about, something that we want to do, and we're going to share it on a channel of its own. And that's where you'll get to really know us and really know what's happening. So what does this have to do with being an XJW? Well, a lot. Because as an XJW, some of us not all of us, but some of us still feel spiritual. We feel that there's something out there. There's the Holy Spirit. There's Jesus. See, I'm leaning toward Jesus, and I watched Gilbert do a show here, just here. I watched one of his videos, and he was talking about this. But I'm leaning Jesus because Jehovah, Yahweh, if I'm to read it how Jehovah's Witness read it, the Bible as it is, it says in there that the kingdom is turned over to Jesus. So if Jesus is in control of the kingdom, everything, then I don't think I can go wrong following Jesus. And I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. I did that for 30 years. It didn't work. Broke up the family. It's a very angry religion. Everyone's running around judging everyone. Let's face it. When you follow Jesus, you can't run around and judge anybody because Jesus is the judge. But anyways, that's my own stuff I'm figuring out in my own mind. Now, I have been doing some research, and I'm going to share some of that with you guys. We're going to move over to this page here. And this is my, this is Watchtower Help Admin. I just had him up, so where am I here? Here you go. Here's what you'll see. If you click onto my site, Fixing My Faith, this is what you guys will see. And if you click under playlists, I made 2 more playlists that are shared. So this playlist here is how Jehovah's Witnesses get programmed. Now, I'm not going to run it on this program. I can't run it on the live. We are going to run that on this program today. Now, the next playlist I made is Did Jesus Worship Yahweh? And I recommend that you guys look at... Now, I looked at this stuff to fix my faith. What you guys do is your business, because it doesn't matter to me. But I'm sharing with you what I'm doing on this channel, and hopefully one day my kids will look at this. So I really want them to see this as I'm progressing on this day to day. And this has changed my viewpoint completely. And did Jesus worship Yahweh? And I've been saying all along, Gilbert's been talking about it. If you go on to Ryan at Cultastic, she's been talking about it. Kim and Mikey have been talking about this subject. Who is Yahweh? And we ran the Anunnaki show. We ran a couple of these oddball on our Saturday Sex show. These oddball groups, they follow aliens and stuff like that. But it seems like there's something that ties in and shows us that there's a pantheon, there's more than one God. Well, this here video, and this is a guy that is in the same boat that we are, XJWs. He's confused, but he's very scholarly, did a lot of research. And he shared his research. It's amazing. He wrote some books. Now, I emailed him because I wanted to play his video, and I always email people and ask them first. And he says, well, you'll get a copyright strike if you play it, but he says you and I can do a live together. So he's going to come on and do a live with us. So if you want to know what this is going to be all about and you want to get a head start on it, because I'm going to pull this into our program, it's so amazing. For me, it's groundbreaking. Groundbreaking. So did Jesus worship Yahweh? After this program, don't click off this program and watch it. Please stay on the program. It's there for your watching. Now, the one that we are going to watch on this program, and I have permission, is how Jehovah's Witnesses get programmed. And it's amazing stuff. And I'm sharing that on my site as well. So now we're going to move into what else we're talking about to tie in with the thumbnail. And we're going to look at, I'm just going to change that a little bigger here. We're going to JW.org, and on JW.org, my good wife, I don't know why she does this, but she goes on and she does a lot of reading at night. I'm sleeping, she's reading. So she's reading all this stuff, and she goes into these featured sites. Now, it disappeared, the one that she showed me. So you go see more, and sure enough, it's right there. When a child wants to end it all. This is an article that they ran, and so we're going to open it up. And this is the Jehovah's Witness article, when a child wants to end it all. This is about suicide. And my good wife reads all this and she says, it just blows me away. How can they even talk about this when they themselves are promoting selective children's suicide? With no blood. Selective suicide. And I read through that and I said, you're right. They do not have the credentials or the right to talk about children and suicide when they themselves encourage the children to commit suicide. Now, I'm going to do this really quick, and then if we have time, we'll go back. But I'm not reading any of this stuff. It's actually quite well done. I read through the whole thing, but I'm not going to share it with you guys because it's a twist. There's always a twist, right? And they do say to resources, does your child have a support network? People she can turn to when she needs help, because it's picturing a girl here having trouble. And it says this might include you, another trusted adult, a mental health professional, or an agency that is trained to help people with suicidal thoughts. So good on Watchtower for bringing that up. That's what they should be saying about suicide. But that's not the point of this live tonight. This live tonight is what gives Jehovah's Witnesses, what gives the governing body the right to talk about child suicide when they promote it. And let's look at this really quickly. I don't want to waste your guys' time too hard, because if you're just in here for the 10 minutes, we find a lot of viewers do 10, 16 minutes, whatever. I want to get to the gist of this really quick, and then I want to come back and go through the scriptural. And I'm using JW Facts on this blood thing. They have done a phenomenal job. If you haven't, it's on the website. It's just jwfacts.com. Whoever's behind it, and this is a lot of people, some are in the organization still as PMOs, and some are outside, but they're all helping to expose the truth. Now I want to talk about something for just a second. I'm going to go over here, and when you think of truth, I want to plug that into my Bible tool, truth. There we go, truth. And truth, what comes up? When you guys think of truth, okay, as an ex-Jehovah's Witness, whoever you are out there, we thought the truth meant the religion. The truth meant the governing body. The truth meant Jehovah's organization. That's the truth. And then it says, and the truth will set you free. Well, yeah, once you learn the truth about everything, all the false religions, it's once you learn that, you are set free. So it's the governing body that sets you free. Well, here's what truth says in the Bible. John 14:6 says, Jesus says to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. So Jesus says, I'm the truth. But the governing body says, no, I'm the truth. Jesus says, I am the truth, and I am the way, and I am the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. And that's what Jesus said. It's all through Christ. You see, it's not through the governing body. It's not through Jehovah's Witnesses. It's through Christ. And it's something that we do personally. We look to Christ personally. And no one goes to the Father. Now, who is this Father? Is it Jehovah? Is it Yahweh? But Jesus never uses Yahweh, ever. So that's where that video, we get into that video of that one, did Jesus worship Yahweh? Now, in all fairness, on the XJW community, I've asked that question many times. As I was progressing, this is a year and a month or two that I've been into this channel, and I took the first 6 months and wrote a book about how I felt. So in the book, I talked about Jesus, and I talked about Jesus being the judge. So how can the governing body be the judge when Jesus is the judge? You see, there's a conflict. There's cognitive dissonance. That's a word I learned by doing this channel. I didn't know those words. And I don't get the words right all the time, but you guys are pretty good helping me to understand that Amni-Gladden, did I get it right? Amni-Gladden? No, Sherry or someone will correct me on that. Now, John 8:32, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Well, what are you going to know? Are you going to know about the governing bodies, what they think? Or are you going to know Jesus? Jesus is the truth, so you're going to get to know Jesus. And that's where I've been for a long time. And then I start looking at the Old Testament, and I look at Yahweh, and I look at Jehovah, and look at all these names and things, and then I'm looking into the pantheon, and and it's confusing. And then I see people online giving their comments, so we read them and look at them, and we try to make sense of all this. And I think for a lot of us, we're wanting to know a little bit more about Jesus, this truth. That's me. That's where I'm at. So if you're in the same boat, you're going to like the ride, because that's the ride that I'm taking. I want to know more about Jesus. So this is the video, Did Jesus Worship Yahweh? This gentleman's from Australia. I think he's got 1,000 subscribers or more. But we'll look at him when he comes online. He's going to do an interview. So hang in there. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. And then you won't miss out on any of these programs. Now, carrying on, I want to talk again about how Jehovah's Witnesses get programmed. So we were talking about when a child suicide, Jehovah's Witnesses, how do they program the children to commit suicide? Because they're programming people to commit suicide. How do they do that? Okay, well, here's what's happening, and I'm going to go all the way down. And if we have time on the show, we're going to look at some of this scriptural stuff, but there's lots, and we've covered it before in our show. But here we go, right here, the Awake magazine, youths who put God first. So these are youths who committed suicide, child suicide, right here. They feature them, they exonerate them, they make them heroes for committing suicide, child suicide. Okay, and here's the commenters from JW Facts. They say, it is disturbing for a religion to teach sanctity for the symbol of life is more important than life itself. So, Watchtower publications claim any attempt to save life through a blood transfusion risks forfeiting everlasting life. And we're going to get into that a little later on. Now, what I do want to show is this video. It's right on their site. So we're going to take a look at this video. We showed it before, but it shows you that they are encouraging, on a big scale, they are encouraging child suicide. Right here. Oh.
They brought it.
I'm going to turn on my desktop audio, and I'm going to turn off my...
to the regional hospital to get the best medical treatment possible, but without blood. And one of the parents said we'd have left him at home if we wanted him to die. So there are people that think that way, but it's not us. We don't want Judge to die. We're doing everything medically to keep him alive. And that's what anyone would do for any of their loved ones. We're not here to watch him die. We're here to get that boy better, so he can walk out and go back and do the things he loves, including the Kingdom Mall and meetings and feel.
I don't know if I want to repeat all that. My mic was off. Anyways, I almost need my good wife here in the same room. But anyways, what I'm saying is it's selective suicide. Here they are. You got Tony Morris, the governing body, if you read my lips, giving this talk, and he's next to God, to most Jehovah's Witnesses. And he's giving this talk, and if you're 7 and under, you are being programmed for life, perhaps. So let's carry on and see how they program you. They make it a child a hero for selective suicide.
Service. Well, one night, this is when it's very hard, but here's what happened. When Josh was in the hospital, he said, Mom, a lot of times when you go to the bathroom or go to get Dad, the doctors come in. And here's what they say, Josh, you need a blood transfusion. Without it, you will die. We want to help you. You know what Josh responded? All alone. Then please respect my wishes about blood. He says, I told one doctor who tried to get me to take blood, you may think I'm crazy, but I have all my thinking abilities. I just want to live by Jehovah's law on blood. He knows what is best for us. The best thing for me is to respect the sanctity of life, and if I die, I will live again. Good example of faith in the face of incredible stress and persecution. Amazing young fella. And
So you see how he went on to exonerate this young guy for selective suicide. Because the blood doctrine is made up. It's made up by Noor. It's not put down. Jesus chose life over death when it came to the animal falling in the well. We're going to cover that scripture later. But the animal falls in the well, and Jesus says on the Sabbath, you break the Sabbath and you go save your animal. So Jesus always, with animals and humans, choose life over death. That's how Jesus works. But I do understand now how Jehovah's Witnesses work, because Yahweh had different rules. Yahweh worked differently, and we're going to learn about that later. But let's carry on.
When he's resurrected, see, you'll hear more from him because Jehovah loves that little fella.
So what a farce, eh? What a farce. You know, there's your selective suicide. So now we're gonna go down. Is that just Josh's faith? It says this experience is based on the experience of a 15-year-old Joshua Walker from the Awake, 1995. Now we're gonna look at one in my backyard here in Edmonton, and it's another video of what selective suicide, with how it breaks up families and how it's just terrible. Now it's at the very end of this article. Follow along. I'm going to speed go through it. A lot of stuff. This is how big this blood article is. If you ever want to do some really good research, it's right in here. And there's lots of examples of people. Okay, we're going to go right to the bottom. There. Dying to Believe is the name of this video. And I'm going to blow it up. Full screen's unavailable. So I have my desktop audio on. Here we go.
The blood test came back saying that she had leukemia. I was hoping that maybe they made a mistake with the tests, or that they got someone else's tests mixed up. As a Jehovah's Witness, probably the worst news that you could hear would be that your child or a loved one has leukemia, because as Jehovah's Witnesses, you're not allowed to have a blood transfusion. And that would mean certain death. When Bethany was in the hospital the second day, I sat with her, just the two of us, and went through the scriptures from the what was referred to in the back of the Jehovah's Witness Bible concerning blood scriptures, and I read through each one, trying to strengthen Bethany's faith. It was like a light came on. I realized that what I had been taught for 20 years really wasn't true concerning the blood doctrine. And I said to Bethany, I said, none of these scriptures apply to your situation, because in your situation, if you don't take a blood transfusion, you're going to die. And the scriptures are referring to more towards proper hygiene, not eating blood so you don't get a disease. In Bethany's case, if she doesn't take a blood transfusion, she's going to die. And then I thought of other scriptures that weren't listed in the back of the Jehovah's Witness Bible, talking about the sanctity of life, and that life is a gift from God. There was a court hearing being held in the ward, and I went into Bethany's room, and Bethany, my two daughters, my wife, and my son-in-law were in the room. And I said to them, I said, and they already knew that I had made up a mind that it was okay for Bethany to get a blood transfusion. So I said to them, I said, no matter what happens in that courtroom this morning, I still love each and every one of you. And immediately, they all said at the same time that they hate me and they would never speak to me again.
Can you believe that? Like, that's from Jehovah's Witnesses.
My wife phoned me and said that Bethany was going to die, and she said what hospital she was in. And I asked her, can she tell me what room number she's in? And my wife said, I'll tell you if you promise not to come to the hospital. I went to the house to pack some things, and I phoned from the house. So this was a half an hour later. She was already dead. But the thing was that she was taken in the hospital the day before. They knew the day before that she was going to die. She was already blind, and they waited till it was too late for me to get to Edmonton to see her. So I fought as hard as I could, and I fought in court for 10 years, mostly without the help of a lawyer. And I fought in the media, and I held protest rallies across the country year after year, putting pressure on the Jehovah's Witness Church to change their blood policy and allow their members to live. Yes, I do exactly the same thing I did. I just couldn't sit by and do nothing about it.
So we can help by telling this story, and we can share this with others. But this is the selective suicide that goes on within the religion. So we will get back to some of this. It's very hypocritical when we go to the Watchtower and we see when a child wants to end it all. Like, who gives them the right to even talk about this? Now, you often wonder how are they how are we getting like I was in the same boat for 30 years. I believed the same things. So what I want to show you is if you go to my playlists again, we're gonna take a look at this video, and that's where you can find it again is on my playlist. And then when you watch it, it goes to their site. So now, how Jehovah's Witnesses get programmed. We're going to take a look at this. how they get programmed. So we're all set up. Here we go.
"95% of our life, this is a fact, comes from those programs in the subconscious. Every day, only about 5% of their life are you using conscious, which is creative. 5%. The movie The Matrix is not science fiction. It's a documentary. Every human, and this is a fact, every human first 7 years is download a hypnosis. 95% of our life is coming from the programs of life, how to live life that we get in the first 7 years of life. And that's why poor people stay poor and rich people stay rich, because the programming. A child below 7 has a lower vibration than consciousness. It's called theta. Theta is imagination. Oh, that's how kids play a tea party with mud pies, but to them it's a real thing. A kid rides a broom, it's a horse. That's theta, imagination. Theta is also hypnosis. And the idea is this: before you can become conscious, if you don't have any programs, what are you going to be conscious of? What kind of programs are required to live on this planet? I say, how do you get them? So nature makes the first 7 years. You just watch. You watch your parents, you watch your siblings, and your community, because you have to learn how many 100,000 rules. Think about it. Just to be a functional member of a family and a functional member of a community, there are rules. Teach an infant these rules. I say, oh, you don't have to. First 7 years, they observe it and just download it. Theta is hypnosis. This is the unfortunate fact. 95% of our life comes from those programs in the subconscious. Every day, only about 5% of their life are you using conscious, which is creative. And you don't see it because it's called subconscious, below conscious. The Jesuits, for 400 years, they were boasting. People didn't understand. They say, give me a child until it's 7 and I will show you the man. They've been saying that for 400 years because they knew 7 years was the program period. And 95% of your life after that will be whatever that program is.
You have been programmed to not think for yourself. And if you have a strong reaction to that statement, then it only confirms that this is true. Most of the responses that we have to everyday life and the decisions that we make are not our own. They are programs that run automatically in the background of our lives via our limitless subconscious minds. And you can learn to create new programs of your choosing once you understand how this works. And I'll discuss that in this video. We learn early on in life to instinctively seek approval, and often only follow what others have taught us to do. When we are young children, we are moving through life unconsciously, and living from our inner world, as Dr. Bruce Lipton just stated. And then we begin to learn more about this physical life from our authority figures, peers, environment, and surroundings. In other words, the outer world begins to imprint itself upon us. We learn what is deemed as acceptable and what is not acceptable, and not all of this is a bad thing. However, the consequences of learning what some in our environment may deem as acceptable, such as how much money a person can create, or how a person should live, or the types of relationships that we should maintain, might not be in alignment with what we truly want for ourselves as adults. Those consequences come in the form of approval or reward, and on the other end of the spectrum, disapproval or punishment. When a child doesn't conform to the expectation of others, the disapproval commences. This can cause a child to feel the intense emotions of being unloved, unhappy, or even guilty for wanting what they want. Those intense emotions are registered and recorded by the subconscious mind. And because these types of feelings don't feel so great, a child instinctually learns to mold their behavior to be in alignment with winning the approval of others by thinking like them, behaving like them, and eventually believing like them. Where social learning is concerned, our brains literally reward us for following what others do. So ultimately, a child can become programmed to conform and be like others through this process. Social conformity is an invisible force that affects how we think, what we do, and how we manifest our lives, because our brains naturally seek out peace, ease, approval, and synchronicity. Watch this experiment to see how this can carry on into our adult lives.
This is what happens when you exit the matrix.
There. So this part of the program, I found it was actually quite interesting, and when we get in, I'm going to run it through, but I'm just warning you, when we get into the where they stand up and sit down with a beep in a chair sitting room, that's exactly what happens at the Kingdom Hall. And that's why everyone signs the blood cards. At the I've been going to the Kingdom Hall for 30 years, and everyone signs those blood cards because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else believes there's only 144,000 going to heaven and everyone's going to live on earth because that's just what everyone believes. Everyone believes that the governing body is next to God because everyone believes that. Everyone believes that the elders are in Jesus' right hand. They're held higher than Jesus in the organization, actually. Jesus is only talked about really on the memorial, and when it's convenient. So watch how we were programmed through the Watchtower program. This next part's interesting.
Pay close attention. The end is astonishing. When you are in the process of awakening, you will realize that everything around you is an illusion in which you have been trapped for many years, something quite strong to assimilate, because you realize that most of society is and will remain trapped. But when you finally leave the matrix, you start to make changes that you would never have made before, like stop watching series, quit harmful habits, stop buying unnecessary things, among many other things you were programmed to do. But you must dare to exit the mental cage, for only then will you achieve liberation. This moment may not repeat itself. This video will not appear again. Once you click the button below this video, you will feel like you are removing a costume that you never needed to interact with this reality, with the most difficult part being the solitary process that will allow you to reach the point of...
We set up a hidden camera experiment to
Sorry
see
about
if this
that.
woman would stand up at the sound of this tone, simply because everyone else is. You might be thinking you'd never go along with this. Or would you? After just 3 beeps, and without knowing why she's doing it, this woman is now conforming perfectly to the group. But what happens if we take the group away?
Elaine, please.
Okay, now she's alone. The crowd is gone and nobody is watching her, except our hidden cameras. What do you think she'll do? She's now conforming to the rules of the group without them even being there.
Now watch what happens when they introduce another outsider who doesn't know how the rules of this waiting room work.
And they'll be out in just a couple minutes. Great, thanks so much.
It's a Bible study.
Everybody was doing it, so I thought I was supposed to.
Think she'll teach the new guy what to do? We kept the cameras rolling as more unsuspecting patients arrived. And slowly but surely, what began as a random rule for this woman has now become the social norm for everyone in this waiting room. And it's why even this rebel, who wasn't standing for any of this nonsense, eventually joined the ranks. And the only thing more shocking than seeing how easily conformity affects the way you act is that similar forces are subconsciously shaping the way you think right now.
Unfortunately, through this process, we can learn things from others that create programs within us.
I thought that was an amazing illustration of how easy it is to get programmed. So that would tell me that we are all running programs. We're all right now, presently, running various different programs that have been put into us, and we run them. So it's interesting how easy it is when you think of how Jehovah's Witnesses get Bible studies. And half the time, we can't explain the 1914 thing anyways, but the Bible study may just come because we're going and everyone else is going and everyone's going to have everlasting life. You see how easy it is to get programmed, especially if you're an infant, So that's how these children are getting programmed to commit suicide. That's how they're choosing suicide when it comes to the no blood doctrine, because everyone else is doing it. Everyone at the Kingdom Hall for all those years, they've watched their parents sign those blood cards aimlessly without even thinking for all those years. And that's how we programmed our children. So now I have a responsibility to go out there and unprogram my children, because I programmed them wrong. I programmed them to commit suicide, selective suicide. Yeah. Okay, well, let's carry on.
Similar forces are subconsciously shaping the way you think right now.
Unfortunately, through this process, we can learn things from others that create programs within us that aren't always accurate or helpful, or that can even be detrimental to the things that we truly want from life. And this doesn't always happen because someone intended malice towards us, but merely because that's the program that they learned when they were younger. It's a cyclical process. Because of this, society, or the outer world, is often more interested in telling us what to think rather than how to think. We don't learn to question what we learned. And then this causes a sense of unhappiness because you're following what others wanted for you rather than what you truly want for yourself. So how do we recognize these programs? By our responses to life. Anything that causes us to react in an emotional way is a program. This is why I said at the beginning of this video that if you have a strong reaction to hearing that you're programmed, it will only confirm that your programming is true. These programs reside on the subconscious plane, and they respond faster to life than our conscious minds can process. In other words, our thinking, behaving, and acting is often automatic in nature rather than conscious, because it resides on a subconscious level. But you can use the same natural programming mechanism within you to manifest your life in very deliberate ways. You only need to consciously input new programs in the place of any old programs that are blocking your success. Here's Dr. Lipton again explaining how to reprogram your subconscious mind.
The conscious mind is creative and can learn in any number of ways. Read a self-help book, go to a lecture, listen to this program, and conscious mind's going to get some awareness. And I go, yeah, but subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. I go, right, it doesn't. Subconscious mind learns in two fundamental ways naturally. Hypnosis, which is the first 7 years. And after age 7, how do you put new programs in? Repetition. Practice. You want to drive a car, you didn't learn how by just getting in the seat and put the key in. You had to practice driving the car. You want to learn the alphabet. How many times did you go from A to Z? Try to go to A to Z before you can complete it. And once you completed it, you didn't have to go back and do it again. So 2 phases. You want to train the subconscious mind? Hypnosis, repetition. I like the last one because there's a new phrase that's bandied about called fake it till you make it. Meaning, if you're not a happy person, I say, you want to be a happy person? Then repeat all the time, I'm happy, I'm happy. I say, well, you don't look happy or anything. You say, no, who am I talking to? By repetition, I'm talking to subconscious. If subconscious gets, I am happy, and 95% of your life comes from that subconscious, there will be a point once the subconscious got, I am happy, you don't have to say it again.
As Dr. Lipton states, hypnosis and repetition are how the subconscious mind creates our programs. We can also use hemi-singing, which I talk about in my masterclass. There's a link to that in the video description. And once we understand how our programming drives our thinking, behavior, and daily actions, and how those things affect the outcomes that we create, and how we manifest our lives, it gives good reason to change any of those programs that keep us stuck in recreating the experiences and circumstances that we don't prefer. Because most people find that the majority of their programs do not empower them when they understand how this works, they make the decision to drop that programming and come into conscious control of their subconscious thinking. And when they do this, their entire lives change in drastic and dynamic ways. and they begin manifesting their dreams easily and effortlessly.
Now, you can sign up for her master class. It's like more of this kind of stuff. And she runs you kind of through stages if you want to unprogram your mind. And so I signed up, and she's a doctor. She's got books and different things, but it's a way of unprogramming your mind without going and getting going through hypnosis. Now, you understand when they talk about hypnosis, that's the first 7 years of your life. They call that, it's a period of time that you're in a hypnotic, you're just absorbing it all, and that's when you develop your personalities. That's when I have. We've all, up until the age 7. So we look back, and that's why it's so important to understand our upbringing. So if we're angry all the time, well, where did we get that from? And if the religion irks us and we're in the religion, perhaps this is other repetitive programming that angsts us. Or we got out of the religion and we're just completely really peed off for being misled and misdirected. And if we keep thinking about that and thinking about it, we're just playing the same record over and over again, and we're always angry. So how do we get out of that? Well, I think it's important. I want to get out of it, and I do have bouts of anger from time to time, because every time I turn around, I'm learning how I was deceived again. So it gets frustrating. I thought this would be all over, but it's just, this blood doctrine, all of these things are deep. And now, we even learned that they disfellowship people for worshiping Jesus. And this is what led me to all this other research. And it's upsetting, and it's changing my whole thinking. And it's irritating, but those are natural signs. Now we're going to carry on here. Yeah, that was the end of it. So.
Well, you were watching videos on YouTube today, so.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the live stream here and see who's on. Live stream. Okay, who's on today? There's a few people on. A lot of times these channels are, even some of this information might not interest you, but it's a time to meet with different people. And if you're watching and you haven't yet engaged into the chat line, it's a good time to do that. And you get to know there's a lot of good people. I see Tadashi from Japan. Hello, nice to see you guys on today. Gina DeVue, I butcher names, I'm so sorry. But Gina DeVuel, she said there's no sound. Yeah, So sorry guys, I messed my sound up tonight. Hi Tammy. I've been my wife and I have been working on an off-grid cabin, an off-grid summer place, and we built a tree for it. And if you want to see what that's about, you'll have to. I haven't yet hosted this video. It's going to take me about another week or so to finish this, probably. But I'll let you guys know. And it'll be our second video on our off-grid channel, so we're just starting that. Blue Rose, thank you for being here. Spartan 300, the Watchtower is wrong regarding handing over the kingdom to Jesus. A simple verse in their own silver sword confirms this. Is wrong, handing over the kingdom to Jesus. I don't know. For it's Hebrews says, for it is not to angels that he has subjected the inhabited earth to come about which we are speaking, since according to the Watchtower, Jesus is Michael. I don't believe that. Spartan. I would recommend Spartan 300. I'd recommend watch that video I'm showing. If you're open-minded and you're not stuck in the Watchtower, this shouldn't upset you. But if you're getting upset and you got to defend the Watchtower's terminology, it means you're programmed. You're programmed, man. And you got to unprogram yourself. So the programming that I'm recommending on this channel is where is the live? I'm going to go back to, here, the playlist. So this one here, How Jehovah's Witnesses Get Programmed. We just watched it. And Did Jesus Worship Yahweh? This, if you want to unprogram yourself, I can't play this video. I'm going to show it to you here. Yeah. So it's right here. Did Jesus worship Yahweh? If you want the answer to that, watch it. It's right on my playlist on my home channel. And that's done by a fella out of Australia. He is going to come on and do a live and talk to us all about this. Fabulous, fabulous video. Very good work. So I appreciate Spartan 300, what you're saying, but we can agree to disagree. Where are we going with this? Who else is on there? Anybody else have any questions or points? John Wayne York. Thank you. I love your Mr. Fix-It series. We got a commercial coming up. I don't know if you heard, my voice was off, but we're collaborating on what we're doing. I'm collaborating with this guy, Watchtower Help Admin. And if you haven't seen this video yet, it's ranking 2.1K views in 2 days. This is the most amazing thing that I think has happened for Jehovah's Witnesses and for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to see this. This is Jehovah's Witnesses reality TV, and this is real stuff. This is what I went through when I was a Jehovah's Witness. Similar stuff, where there's two parents not agreeing, and one parent stays with the Jehovah's Witness and one parent leaves, and the kids are all mixed up in this stuff. This video is excellent. I recommend it, so I can't say anything more. Now, we're going to talk a little bit here about, I'm going to change the screen here. I don't know if you can see that well. But this is the JW facts about Jehovah's Witnesses and blood transfusions. And just for a little bit of information on this, Jehovah's Witnesses are permitted most forms of medical treatment, but under no circumstances must they ever have a blood transfusion. Abstaining from blood is considered an area that identifies them as the only true religion. What is generally unknown is that over its history, the Watchtower Society has made a virtual 360-degree turn on their acceptance of blood products. So the point being is, Nor brought in this no blood transfusions. A lot of people died, and then they changed their viewpoints and they said, well, only we can accept. Well, here it is: Jehovah's Witnesses must not consume or donate or transfuse blood or 4 of the blood's components: red cells, white cells, platelets, plasma. But it is considered acceptable for them to use other blood fractions. So Jehovah's Witness, the JWR, gets right into it like they're doctors, and this is unacceptable, and this you can decide on. So this is unacceptable. This one you can decide on. It's up to your conscience. And you know how many people, if the elder next to you says, "Well, I'm not gonna take a chance. I'm not gonna take a chance. I'm not gonna even go with that," and they'll check the box that they won't even take fractions. They'll die. They'll commit suicide. It's just bizarre how this programming has gotten into the minds of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's because there's enough Jehovah's Witnesses in the organization from the ages of 1 to 7 that they were hypnotized. It's hypnosis, and this is why, friends, if you're Canadian and you haven't got involved in our petition below, we're asking you to help us to stop treating these religions, Jehovah's Witnesses particularly, as charities because of this child suicide, selective child suicide. That is wrong on every level. So thank you, for listening to my harp about this, but it's so serious. It's a very serious subject. And people are dying every day, making decisions to die, signing those cards, putting them in their wallets, or getting anklets and bracelets and necklaces and all kinds of things, no blood, based on a fallacy, something that's not real. false programming. So there's a lot of stuff here. It's inconsistent. We talked about the rabbinic principle of pikuash nefesh. I said that wrong, but it's at Matthew 12 and 11. And that's where the animal falls into the well. Jesus says you break the law. You go save the animal. And the Jews, of course, they're stuck on the law, right? Yeah. So anyways, Jesus, if we're followers of Jesus, if we're Christians, we would choose life over death. That's what Christians do. Watchtower claims that the sanctity of blood requires it to be poured out on the ground, citing Deuteronomy 12. And Jehovah's Witnesses must not donate blood, store blood, accept a blood transfusion, or even administer a blood transfusion. So now if you're a doctor or a nurse, you're in a precarious situation. They're telling you how to do your work at work. However, they are allowed to make the use of blood fractions that have been derived from blood that has been donated and stored. The following quotes showed what is not allowed. And there was so much crap on this in Kingdom Ministries. I was in the organization when they were pumping all this crap out. Blood is not to be stored. They went into all this crap. And this is why we know this is a cult. This is why there's a petition, Be Free 2023. This is in front of the White House in the U.S., if you haven't been involved, October 31st of this year. Let's not forget that. And plan to be there. And this is one of the main topics that we are protesting against, is selective suicide based on this crap. It has to stop. So they may also give blood for blood tests. Jehovah's Witness medical professions may draw blood for blood tests. They're dictating what a nurse does. This is bull. This is crap. It's got to stop. History of acceptable blood components. Now, this article in JW Facts talks about everything. These guys have really done their homework on making it easy for us as ex-JWs coming out of the organization to really see what a fallacy this is, what a joke this is. So anyways, I don't know how much of this you want to know. We could talk about some of the other principles. I think you want to look at something that's really simple, and everyone likes to watch TV, right? This is a good one, and I don't mind playing it again. I've gotten permission from Watchtower Help to play this. I should put it on my playlist, and then he gets credit, at least. But anyways, he'll get this one credit. I will put it on my playlist. But I'm going to play this a little bit here, and if you want to understand the blood doctrine and you want to do it, you don't want to do a lot of reading, this is one of the easiest places to understand it. And the guy's name is Frank. He's quite the artist. He built all of this stuff. It takes thousands of hours to build a movie like this. And so we want to give Frank a big thumbs up. If you guys can ever help Frank, I don't know if he needs donations or whatever, but I'm not here to proclaim for the guy, but he's put in thousands of hours, like a lot of us. And he's done a fabulous job. He's behind the scenes doing this work. He used to work in Watchtower at the New York Bethel, apparently in the writing committee. Now, I'm going to turn the desktop audio on, and I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to play a little bit of this so you can understand the blood doctrine.
Our DWI patient? I ordered. Nurse, isn't this our DWI patient? I ordered 2 units of blood, a CAT scan, and booking the OR for emergency surgery. The man has internal bleeding, so there's no time to lose. What's he still doing here? It looks like you've done nothing. He's not even hooked up to oxygen. What? He's a Jew?
No, not a Jew, a JW, a Jehovah's Witness. They're the ones who won't take blood. So, Dr. Henderson said it was pointless to do anything else, because without blood, he'll be dead in a few minutes no matter what we do.
The man came in unconscious. How do you know he's a JW?
He had one of these. I recognize it from other patients I've seen. And our chaplain, Pastor Russ, has seen the patient on the internet.
Yes, it's Anthony Morris III. He's one of their leaders, the governing body they call themselves. He's a real stickler on their prohibition on blood.
Well, page Dr. Charles and ask him to declare the man incompetent to make his own medical decisions. Then give him the blood, stat.
No! You can't do that! That's a violation of the laws of God and man.
Excuse me, but who are you? A family member?
I'm Fred Krantz of the HLC, the Hospital Liaison Committee. I'm here to ensure this man's wishes are honored and his rights are respected, and to explain to you what blood fractions he can and cannot accept in order to maintain his integrity to Jehovah, our God.
A lawyer?
No.
Has the patient legally given you power of attorney?
Well, no.
Then you have no business being here. Get out of here before I call security. This man's life is in danger, and you're wasting our time.
No. Brother Morris would want me here, defending his religious freedom.
It's all a mistake, though. You know, your ban on blood. It's not against God's law to accept blood.
Oh, I'd expect as much from a clergyman. Have you never read Acts chapter 15? For the Holy Spirit and we ourselves have favored adding no further burden to you except these necessary things, to keep abstaining from things sacrificed to idols, from blood, from what is strangled, and from sexual immorality. If you carefully keep yourselves from these things, you will prosper. Good health to you. Injecting blood into your veins is not abstaining from blood.
Yes, I have read that. Have you ever read Leviticus 19 verse 19?
You should keep my statutes. You must not interbreed two sorts of your domestic animals. You must not sow your field with two sorts of seed, and you must not wear a garment made with two sorts of thread mixed together.
Care to show us the label on your suit? I'll bet it violates that last biblical rule.
It's a wool and silk blend. So what? That's from the Mosaic Law. That law passed away with Jesus' sacrifice. It's not binding on Christians today.
Oh, so you're saying that we must consider the context of a scripture and not just yank it out and follow it as if it necessarily applies to us today?
Of course.
So then, maybe if we considered the context of abstain from blood, it would reveal the fact that it too is not something binding on Christians today. In the first place, this is not a commandment from God or Jesus. It is the words of someone named James. Who is this James, and why should we assume that he had any business encumbering Christians with such rules? When Jesus was asked what the commandments were, did he mention any of these dietary restrictions? No, he did not. He stated two commandments to rule all behavior, to love God and to love your neighbor. So, why would James, as a follower of Christ, take it upon himself to add extra commandments? The fact is, he wouldn't. No real Christian would. So, what was going on here? Well, the first verse of that chapter in the book of Acts gives us the answer. It tells us that certain men, known as Judaizers, were insisting that Gentile Christians needed to get circumcised. The meeting, related in Acts 15, was called to decide the matter. James disagreed with the need for circumcision, but in order to appease the Judaizers, decided to caution Gentile Christians against violating the more publicly obvious of the Jewish customs, such as engaging in lewd behavior, eating meat sacrificed to idols, or eating meat that had not been properly bled. The Bible clearly states that this was the reason for the decision, not that it was a commandment from God that involved a Christian salvation, but rather because, according to verse 21, from ancient times Moses has had those who preach him in city after city, because he is read aloud in the synagogues on every Sabbath. The advice was that these practices be abstained from, because Jews certainly would consider the eating of such meats as participating in heathen idolatry. Christian freedom did not obligate one to follow the dietary laws of the Jews. Paul makes this crystal clear in 1 Corinthians, chapters 8 and 10, where he writes that he, as a Christian, is perfectly free to eat meat sacrificed to idols. Nevertheless, it was advisable that the Gentile Christians abstain from the use of their liberty in this matter, out of deference to the weaker brethren, Jews and Gentiles, who could not so deeply philosophize and whose consciences might be injured. A similar thought attaches to the prohibition of the use of blood. To the Jew it was forbidden, and under his covenant it was made a symbol of life. To partake of it would imply responsibility for the life taken. These prohibitions had never come to the Gentiles, because they had never been under the law covenant, but so deeply rooted were the Jewish ideas on this subject that it was necessary to the peace of the church that the Gentiles should observe this matter also. If they did not wish to be contentious and cause divisions in the church, the Gentile brethren would surely be willing to restrain or sacrifice their liberty respecting these matters. However, today there are no Jews or Christians, outside of the Jehovah's Witnesses, who would be stumbled by a Christian having a blood transfusion. So, the rationale behind the request that James made no longer exists. Therefore, Christians are free to have blood transfusions.
Well, that's certainly a pretty speech. But it's wrong. Gentiles were prohibited from blood, even though they were never under the Mosaic law. Being descendants of Noah, they came under the everlasting covenant made with Noah after the flood. Didn't you make it past chapter 4 of Genesis in your seminary? There we read God's command. Only flesh with its life, its blood, you must not eat.
I can comment on that. In Hebrew school, we were taught from the Talmud that this means that we are not to eat flesh from a living being, not to bite into an animal that is alive, with its life still in it.
Interesting, I hadn't considered that before, yet that's literally what the verse says. It's a prohibition against eating a certain type of flesh, living flesh. It's not a prohibition against blood at all.
Oh, that's just hair-splitting semantics. It's obvious that God wants us all to abstain from blood.
Well, there's another verse in the Bible that contradicts your idea that Gentiles were forbidden to eat blood. In Deuteronomy 14 verse 21 we read, "You must not eat any animal that was found dead. You may give it to the foreign resident who is inside your cities, and he may eat it, or it may be sold to a foreigner. For you are a holy people to Jehovah your God." An animal found dead would not have been properly bled. That's why a Jew could not eat it, being part of a holy people under a covenant with God, but the verse tells us that a non-Jew could eat it, blood and all. Surely you...
I thought that was an interesting part of the program and reasoning here. And there was some other reasoning I was missed. I was going to come back in, but you can rewatch this and turn the subtitles on. I forgot to turn the subtitles on so you could see the scriptures. But he has all the scriptures in there, and they could eat the blood if they went to town. So let's say a Gentile, I'm a Gentile, and they could bring that unproperly bled animal into town. They could sell it, and the Gentiles could eat it, and a Gentile could go in and eat it and buy that. They could buy the meat with byproducts. Do you remember how Jehovah's Witnesses used to tell us, oh, no byproducts, no byproducts? Well, right in the Bible here, it shows that they could go in and eat byproducts. The Gentiles could anyways. I thought that was interesting.
You haven't been sacrificing people's lives on the basis of such flimsy misinterpretations of Scripture. Have you?
No, there's more to it than that. We see a consistent pattern throughout the Bible of God condemning the eating of blood. Leviticus 17 verse 14 is another clear instance.
Leviticus? Isn't that part of the Mosaic Law?
You know it is.
But you already said, when I mentioned that your apparel violates that law, that Christians are no longer under that law. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand you?
You didn't misunderstand. But I'm not using Leviticus here as a law, but as a principle. God hates the use of blood.
Yet he created vampire bats, mosquitoes, and a host of other creatures who cannot survive without eating blood. He allowed Gentiles to eat unbled animals, and he allowed Paul, under inspiration, to state that a Christian could eat anything sold in the market without being concerned that they might be eating meat sacrificed to idols or meat from an unbled animal. Why would that be, if he hated it so much?
Well, I don't claim to know everything. All I know is that if we try to save our life by violating God's laws, then we'll lose our everlasting life. That's a deeply held religious conviction that I'm sure even you gentlemen can appreciate.
No! I can't appreciate it at all. In Hebrew school, we learned the rabbinic principle known as pikwach nefesh. Saving life supersedes God's law.
That's wonderful. But we're Christians, not Jews.
Oh, but Jesus lived by this principle as well. It's taught to us in Matthew chapter 12. At that season, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. Jesus didn't believe that one should starve to death before breaking a commandment. His actions and teaching show that he believed that God's commandments could be broken in life or death situations. As he said, the law was made for man, and not man for the law. It was meant to be a help in living a good life, not a cause for death. Your own Watchtower magazine reached the same conclusion when commenting on these verses, stating that Jesus was calling attention to acts of mercy on the Sabbath day, that it was perfectly legitimate to render a show of mercy to one who is in need even though it was the Sabbath, and that there is, in effect, no violation of the Sabbath by such course of action. So, even if you still mistakenly think that accepting blood violates God's law, then this principle should show you that when it comes to saving a life, there is no violation.
Name?
Anthony Morris III. Don't you recognize me? I'm a member of the governing body.
Governing what body?
You must be joking. The Jehovah's Witnesses, of course.
The Jehovah's. What? Oh, never mind. Here you are. No, this isn't right. You're not supposed to be here for a few years yet. What happened?
Evidently, I was in a car accident. I think I drove into a tree or something.
I see. It seems you may have had a bit too much to drink. The record isn't clear on that. But, according to this, you were supposed to survive that incident.
Well, I probably would have, if I had violated my faith and accepted a blood transfusion.
Okay. Head that way. All early arrivals have to see the boss.
Hi there, Jesus. It's Anthony. I'm ready to be in heaven. Just give me a horse and a sword and we can get this Armageddon thing going. Can't wait to smell those human hot dogs, Aslan.
Tony, my son, I'm afraid we can't let you in. You've got blood on your hands.
What? Whose blood? I tell you I'm innocent of the blood of all men.
Do you remember Joshua Walker?
Oh sure, that little fella. He stuck to his guns, just like me, and refused blood. I paid tribute to his faith at a convention in 2016.
And he died, long before his time. We had big plans for him. What about Dennis Lindbergh?
I don't remember him.
He was a 14-year-old who died refusing blood back in 2007. I could give you thousands of such names, but you probably wouldn't even recognize them.
We just told people about God's law concerning blood. The rest was their personal decision.
Children aren't capable of making such life and death decisions based on your convoluted reasoning. You and your cohorts are blood guilty. You used your undue influence to coerce children, and their parents, into giving up their lives.
Well, should we have told them to disobey God's law? Saving their lives just to lose their everlasting lives?
Don't you remember my telling the Pharisees, I want mercy, and not sacrifice? You were just like them, always making more rules about ever smaller minutiae, but missing the spirit of things. Imagine issuing edicts about what fractions of blood are acceptable. When did I ever mention blood fractions? Where is it in any page of your enormous Bible? I said that my load was kindly and light. I taught about forgiveness and love. I said the entire law could be summed up by love. There is nothing loving in forcing a parent to withhold life-saving medical care from their child. Love trumps laws, even what you imagine to be God's laws. But you didn't understand that. You presumed to tell your followers that God wanted sacrifice, not mercy. I said that nothing that enters a person can defile him. Didn't you realize that this includes blood? Only what comes out of a person can defile him. Words that lead to death, such as the words in the watchtower demanding the sacrifice of children's lives on your altar of blood. These words have defiled you, and made you unfit to be in my sight any longer.
Wait! I demand to see your supervisor. Take me to Jehovah to plead my case.
Who? Oh, yeah, you're that group that still believes in the war god of the ancient Israelites and Canaanites.
You were a Jew. You also believed in Jehovah, didn't you?
No. Why do you think I never mentioned him? Yahweh was a cruel, angry, vengeful God, whom I wanted nothing to do with. I tried to turn men's thoughts to a loving, heavenly Father figure, whom they could emulate. You emulated Jehovah. No wonder you're eager to fight a war.
Oh, geez.
What?
Sorry. I mean, well, what happens now? To me?
Well, there's one thing you guys got right. Death is the absence of life, and nothing survives it. In a moment you will cease to exist.
Brother Morris! Morris! Will someone nudge him awake?
What?
We're voting, brother. Everyone else has their hand up already.
Oh. Remind me, what is it we're voting on?
To approve this letter to the HLC elders, reaffirming our stance on the importance of preventing blood transfusions in babies, the group most commonly in need of them.
Wait a minute. I had a dream. Wow. All about the blood doctrine.
Was it a revelation?
No. It wasn't anything I didn't know already. Besides, we don't believe Jehovah communicates to us anymore in dreams. I'll make it unanimous. I vote yes.
There, I'll come back on. I thought this was a little interesting piece of statistics. Tens of thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses have died as a result of the Watchtower's blood policy since 1961. Somewhere between 594 to 1,250 die each year. So it's being tracked by the community. And very nice job on this video. Goes to the Watchtower Help Admin Club. So you can see a number of other videos on their site. And I'm just going to move back to this. There. So you can see they have 7 videos on their site. And they just released again the new Jehovah's Witnesses reality TV episode 1. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. So that's really good news. Now, last time I played the movie on the near-death experience of Anthony Morris, I had some comments come in to the extent, well, Jehovah being a pantheon and all of this stuff, it upset some people. And it's important for us to recognize when we get upset, that means that we're dealing with a program. We're dealing with a program that's running in our mind, and maybe that was done through hypnosis, and that's if you're age 1 to 7, it was done hypnotically through going to Watchtower meetings and listening and watching your parents. So that's how you learned that stuff. So now it's a matter of undoing it. These movies here, that's why I keep replaying them on this channel, because they help. Repetition helps us undo it, and it's not that you're always on or the same people are always on watching. So we do want to get more people going to the Watchtower Help admin, but on these lives, excuse me, it's so important that we can tie this in with other programs that we're running. So to move on the program here, we are going to take one last look at this. When a child wants to end it all, and here though Jehovah's Witnesses are talking about child suicide, I hope that we help you as the audience to take a different look at how the Watchtower's programming is, and really who the Watchtower is and how they're programming all of their members. So pass this information on. We're running to the end of our program here. Excellent information on Joshua's story. This kind of ties into the Alberta or the Watchtower Help Club's video on Anthony Morris. And this Watchtower, we looked at Joshua's story. I think it was up here more. Wasn't sure. Yeah. So we watched Joshua's story, and that's one where Tony Morris was in there giving the talk that year, and telling everyone what a hero this young boy was. Josh, right here, the victory for children's rights. So sad. And this is all because of this no blood card that they have. All with this programming. This is this hypnotic programming. Josh was hypnotically programmed. It was unfair. It cost him his life. And the very last one was Bethany's story. The father gave that story here. Oops, we're gone. There, back. Hit a button. But anyways, I think that covers, we covered that subject pretty good tonight. I'm going to go and look at the chat line here and see who's on live stream. So I want to say thanks to Hop Crafts for the $10 donation. My good wife will use that for the lights and stuff coming up. So thank you very much. Hi to Christiane for being on. ST Copilot, thanks for being on. Jay, hello. K. Fred, Christiane, Brian Dykeman, hello. Nice that you could make it. So we've had a lot of people on today. I'm just looking at is there anything I should mention? So I'm just checking. Sometimes my wife puts little markers in there and I can check it. So hello, tall, cool woman. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Mimi, thank you. I just about missed you. You're always here. Thank you for supporting our show and supporting the chat line. And for any of the other ones out there that are afraid to chat, now we're just ending the program, but get involved with the community. There's a lot of good people. A lot of people will help you. They've helped me in a lot of different ways. I keep asking questions on different programs. Jane Spitfire, thanks for coming on and seeing us. Dale Price, thanks for being on the show tonight. And yeah, it's a good program. A lot of comments, so a lot of communication. And sometimes these shows are good just to get online and see your friends. Sometimes what we say is kind of boring. You can just fade us out and just get into another conversation. We don't care. This is what it's all about. So we're going to end the program here, and we're going to say thank you again, and keep living your life with love. And that makes a big difference. Ask my good wife. When I'm showing love on a good day, everything is 2 stars, 3 stars, 5 stars. But here it is. I mostly have good days. And as we get out of the watchtower and reprogram ourselves, I think our days can get better. And we have to keep thinking different thoughts and not playing the old record over and over again. Not thinking about all those angry moments we had at the watchtower. Maybe try to focus on some good moments that we had at the watchtower. And some of the good times and some of the good things with the good people. There's a lot of good people in the watchtower. So here we go. We'll see you guys on Saturday. The Saturday Sex Show at 2:30 p.m. It's held every Saturday. So if you haven't made that one, and we talked about some weird things, you know, the Anunnaki, and last week we talked about the Regency Academy. Anyways, it was outer space stuff, aliens and federations of starships and stuff out there. There's a lot of different beliefs around the earth, but what I noticed in all of these is they were emphasizing Jesus. Jesus. It seems like Jesus seems to be everywhere. And if you follow this next, if you want to take a look at the video on my playlist, like I'd mentioned about did Jesus believe in Yahweh, I'd recommend take a look at that. That's where I'm going next. And hopefully we'll get a live with, I think the guy's name was Paul. Okay, so here we go. Well, folks, thank you for joining the live tonight at JW Late Night Talk. And this show is made possible because of you guys. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Like and share and throw your comments in. And thanks for your participation tonight. The band out there, time to get up and go and dance. So come on, get up with me. Let's go and do a little shake.